Hey everybody, I'm Lucas. Welcome back to Locust Grove Homestead. Today we're working on a project that we started a few weeks ago. We're hoping to be able to finish a big part of this today. So what we're doing is we're removing brush, mainly honeysuckle, autumn olive, vines, multiflora rose, stuff like that. Things that just overgrown on these old pastures. And we're going to leave behind the apple trees that were here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tractor fired up while I tell you a story, and you can see what we're doing. So I don't know how well you know your homestead history, but 150 plus years ago, when this valley was settled, the people who came here were told by the federal government if they planted X number of trees, then they could claim this land as their own. They were the original homesteaders who settled here. Well, one of those guys had a light bulb idea. His name was Johnny Appleseed. And he came here and he planted thousands of apple trees, knowing that the rest of the pioneers coming from the east would need trees to be able to fulfill their government obligations for their homesteads. And so he sold thousands of apple trees to people so that they could meet their requirements. Well, fast forward 150 years later, and here we stand. We just happen to be standing in the middle of one of those apple orchards. Now, unfortunately, all those trees that were originally planted, they died a long time ago. They haven't been cared for in probably 100 years. Who knows how long? Who knows when the last time an apple was picked off this ridge to feed somebody? Maybe 1930, maybe 1950. Who really knows? All we do know is that all of the original trees, they're gone. They've been dead for a long time. But what remains is the seedlings off of those trees. And so what we're doing is we're taking out all of the shrub and all the underbrush to try to save some of these legacy apples. Do we know how they produce? No, we don't know what they produce. We know that some of them produce fruits, but most of them don't. And once we get them dug out today, we're going to take a little closer look to see just what kind of sets we have on these trees and if they're going to be productive at all. So moving forward, what we're going to eventually do here in the next few weeks, so we have some production Scion that we're going to graft on to some of these trees, the healthier ones that don't have production on them. So the healthier ones that aren't producing any apples. I know that there are a couple here that are not producing apples. I've already dug those out, but the ones that are still to be dug out, I'm not sure exactly what their situation is. Had to get you cleaned up. You got a little scratched up today. So we got that finished. We got that finished. Man, took 4 days total, I think. We were off and on, and we've been trying to get dry days for a good solid month now, and we finally got 2 good days back to back. We were able to get that creek crossing done yesterday and get up here and work on this a little bit today, and then we were able to really just hammer this out today. And that is beautiful. It really is satisfying to create an orchard overnight. You know, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a 5th one back here, and then 6, 7 over here, and then 8, 9. There's a cherry tree here is 10, and there's a cherry tree down here is 11. Apple tree right here is 12. Plus we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 black walnut trees. So overall, we have 20 mature trees that are able to produce. Now, some of the trees we're going to go in and we're going to do a little work to them, try to graft some production varieties on there. But some of them we're going to let go. You know, I've always been a big fan of wild apples, and some of these trees actually do produce big edible apples. This one right here on occasion will produce big apples, but you've seen what it looked like. It was all shuttered out and was competing for sunlight and was all kinds of problems. You see, we can take trees like this and we'll look on here, and I don't see any apple sets. See, no apple sets on there. So that tree might be a variety, because you got to think a lot of these trees, well, all these trees, I mean, you got to think all these trees at one point in time were all seedlings. You know what? These apple trees were probably originally planted 100 some odd years ago, 150 years ago. And those parent trees have died, and their seeds are what's regenerated this ridge. It's just like any other vegetable. When you breed, you're not going to get a true type. Like if you were to take potato seeds and plant them, you're not going to get the same kind of potato that you took it from the plant. The fruit trees are the same way. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Like this one right here, you can see this is a cherry tree, and you can see there's a little cherry right there. So we know this cherry tree is productive. 2 days ago, this thing was covered in so much brush that you couldn't even see it, and it was struggling to get enough sunlight to even stay alive, let alone produce cherries. Last year, we found 1 cherry on this tree. This year, we'll see just how many cherries this actually produces. This tree right here, still blossoming up top. And you can see right here, and you can see right here, we've got apples growing on here. So this may be a productive tree. We'll have to see what kind of apples grow on this tree. Same thing on this tree right here. We've got clusters that are formed. So we know there's apples on the tree. We know it's a productive tree. Question is, what kind of apple does it produce? These kind of remind me of crab apples, so I wouldn't be surprised if this produces the little teeny tiny crab apples. But these are all wild trees. They all came from planted trees that came in on the original homesteads hundreds of years ago. So we know that they're from those breeding stocks. We just don't know what they bred into. We've still got a little bit of work to do up here, though. We've got to get trees like this that are dead. See, that tree is deader than dead. This tree right here is dead, and we're gonna cut those down for firewood, take them down to the stove. But other than that, we've just got a little bit teeny tiny things to take care of. You know, we got these little snags like this need cut out. And then we've got this Osage tree over here we got to cut down. I thought about leaving it. Osage, they're gonna get really bushy if we leave them there. It's gonna compete pretty heavily with that apple tree that's sitting right next to it. So it's gonna have to go. Just from a production standpoint, we don't need the apple to have that kind of competition. What do you think?
Then cleared out a lot. Except these little trippy wires here. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
They broke short me and smacked my face on the ground.
Some of these trees, I'm not even sure if they'll survive. They've been covered in this brush for so long that it's hard to say if they're gonna be able to get out of that. I mean, you look at this apple tree right here. That's not a normal looking apple tree. Look how tall it is. Are we gonna be able to keep that from, be able to keep that from snapping off once it starts producing apples? I don't know. This is an experiment for me. I don't know if there's any videos online to even show people that this is possible, let alone what kind of results we're gonna get from a big, tall, lanky apple tree like that. You know, or can this tree even actually survive to be able to be productive? I mean, you can still see there's living material in here, but there's also dead in here. It's alive enough that I'm gonna give it a chance. It's just like this one right here. It's alive enough, it's got enough leaves in the top of it that we're gonna give it a chance and see if it can shake it out of it. You know, to me, it's a living thing that's productive, that's gonna enrich our lives and the wildlife's lives, so it's definitely worth taking our chance on. So what do you think?
I guess we can get hiking sticks for free out here because of all the limbs of trees.
Yeah,
here's
for
one
sure.
of them.
So what's next on this ridge? Well, we've got a little bit more to clear up here because there's still a good 5 or 6 apple trees buried back in here that I would like to try to save. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have this open area up here. Yeah, like I told you, this is, in case you didn't see it earlier, but this is what this looked like, right? All of this, all the way down through there. So thick you couldn't walk through it. And I'll show you, this is what these apple trees are dealing with. You can see, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. There is an apple tree right here. That's a pretty decent size. You can see the ones, it's got surrounded by autumn olive. It's the green leaves that don't have any yellow flowers on it. That's what they're competing with. These autumn olives are killing them. Like, just, they're strangling them to death. No light, no sun. And you can see it's just, this used to be a 4-wheeler trail and it's just completely grown over with autumn olive and multiflora rose. If you ever walked into one of these before, you'll remember it, because these things are nasty and they will grab a hold of you and they will not let go. And that is almost everything that exists up through there. I don't want it around here. I don't know anybody who does.